I'm literally using a stack of books as a footrest. They're my books, okay? I can do whatever I want with them. So, we've got a lot of books to get through, so let's just get right into this. Today, guys, it is the final video of bookmas. That's like, actually, I'm sad. I had a lot of fun doing this. It was a really fun time. It was like stressful. It was not high stakes, but like there was a lot going on, but I had a fun time, honestly. It was nice getting to do all these videos. For today's video, the last video of bookmas, the last video of the year 2025, I figured what better way to round this all off than with a book tag. An end of year 2025 final book tag. So a book tag is basically just like a bunch of bookish questions, and then I have a book for each question. Sometimes the same book for multiple questions, sometimes multiple books for the same question. It's fairly simple. It's basically just like a recap of your reading year. So I have a list of 23 questions here on my phone, which is fitting because we are the 23rd. So like that was unintentional, but it worked out very well. These are just questions that I've seen other booktubers use. All the book tag videos I've seen seem to follow like the same formula. They all have kind of the same questions, and so I will also be doing those questions. I have in front of me, wait a second, we're gonna be careful, we don't want a repeat of dropping these. We have a giant stack of books. There shouldn't be 23 books here, but there's a lot of books here, and so these books will all fit into one of the questions. Honestly, it's been a really good reading year. First big reading year in so long. It's not quite, as you know, it's not the end of the year yet, but where we currently are, I have read 77 books, and my original reading goal was 55. So we definitely smashed that out of the park. I'm just really happy. I've discovered so many new books, new authors, new genres even, that I just absolutely love, and that is all thanks to BookTok and BookTube, and so I'm so happy that I discovered those spaces and that I've had such good book recommendations from them. But anywho, we've got a lot of books to get through, and I don't want this video to take forever, so we might as well just jump right into it. So for the last time this year, grab yourself a nice warm drink or a nice cold drink, get yourself somewhere cozy, and let's get on into the video. Okay, so the first question, starting things off not well, is my most disappointing read of the year. And honestly, I feel like you guys may know this. I have mentioned it in a few of my other videos, but that was Quicksilver. I had such high expectations for Quicksilver, and I was disappointed, honestly. It was very disappointing to me, and I am disappointed that I could not get the hype that other people, because other people were raving about it and raving about the second one, and I just could not get the hype. And I have not read the second one, I have no plans on doing so. But yeah, it was just, honestly, I went into expecting so much, expecting high stakes romantasy, top tier banter, a god tier main male character love interest. I got none of those. I just wasn't a fan. The book was not for me. I did not enjoy it. Okay, now onto a bit more positive note, an underhyped book. And for that, I have grabbed The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. So as you all know, I recently read the second book in this duology and I loved it so much more, but that does not mean that the first book is not also really good. And so it's not only personally underhyped because I compare it to the second book, which I loved a lot more. It's also just I haven't really seen this series on BookTok or BookTube at all, and I think it's really good. They are literally just, I literally have not a bad thing to say about this book. It was really positive, it was really nice, it was a warm hug. I think more people should read this book because it's just a really happy book, and so I think more people would be happier if they read this book. I feel like this book manages to talk about injustices in society, but in such a positive way, in a way that's showing you there are these injustices, but if we work together, we can make things better. An overhyped book, on the other hand, and that, I honestly would have said Quicksilver again, but I don't want to get repetitive. I tried to pick out a different book for every question. That's not always possible, because there are just some questions where there was only that one book, but as much as possible I tried to choose different books for different questions. But for an overhyped book, I'm going with Powerless, because I feel that that series, I understand the hype because it has a lot of typical fantasy elements, but I also feel like those typical fantasy elements were heavily inspired by other books. I did not find anything original about it. I thought that Kai Aza especially was overhyped. Everyone goes on about Kai Aza saying he's like the best book boyfriend. I disagree heavily. He doesn't even make my top 10. That's just my opinion. Again, I understand why, but I just do not think that book was as good as everyone on BookTok makes it out to be. A book that surprised me. Now, where is it? That was Furyborn. So this surprised me because I started it a couple years back, read maybe the first 3-4 chapters, just was not invested. So then when I reread it this year and fell head over heels in love with this book, this entire trilogy, the last book was a 5-star god tier read for me. I just didn't expect that. It surprised me. But also I feel like, talking just the book itself, outside of my opinion on it, I feel like the fantasy plot of it is quite different from a lot of other fantasy books that I've read. I think it takes some unexpected turns and it puts a really fresh take on the typical like fantasy genre. And so I think also in that aspect it's surprising. Like, there are a lot of plot twists that I did not necessarily see coming. From a personal point of view, if I did not expect this book to completely consume me in the way it did, and then from the storyline point of view of this book was just felt really new and refreshing, this book just surprised me in a really good way. Okay, now is my favourite book couples. Well, I couldn't choose one, so I chose two. And honestly, I'm not really someone who gets hugely attached to book couples, probably because I do read a lot of fantasy, and it doesn't even have to be fantasy. I read pure fantasy, so therefore some of the books I read, there just won't be a romance in it. This question was actually one of the harder questions because I really had to think about couples that I liked, because I just, in fantasy, I feel like couples are important and I do like them, but it's just really not the main point of the book. I'm not a huge couple person in books, but the two that I picked out, and I just want to preface this by saying I'm just a girl. Okay, I'm just a girl who has popular interests, common interests with all the other girlies on here. And so yes, I'm unoriginal, I'm aware of that, because my two book couples are the main book couple in Front of Glass. I'm not going to say who they are because that'd be a big spoiler, I feel, and I don't want to spoil, but the main couple, like the couple of the main character, and then Violet and Xaden. I mean, come on, you can't have a list of best book couples and not include Violet and Xaden. I really like both these couples because I feel like a lot of romantasy book couples, I don't think are always the most healthy. Like, if in real life you were in this relationship, you should get out, you know? The whole, no, you stay behind and I go off and save this person because I don't want you to get hurt thing, I don't like that either. Again, they have their own autonomy. The woman in fantasy books has her own autonomy. She wants to go with him to kill the bad guys. She has every right. He can't be like, no, stay behind, I'm gonna do it on my own. But we're getting off track. And so I feel like both of these couples were really healthy. Okay, so favorite main characters. So both of mine come from the same book series, and that is The Hunger Games. So my favorite main characters are Katniss and Haymitch. And Haymitch from Sunrise on the Reaping, but I don't currently have that book. I lent it to my sister. But Katniss, I just thought she was such a unique heroine, especially because this was in what, the 2010s. I thought she was just a really unique heroine for her time, and even just now I think she is vastly different from a lot of fantasy or dystopian main female characters. I think it's really interesting that this book series shows that she may be the main character, she may be the face of the rebellion, but she is really just a young girl trying to do the best for the people she loves. It's like she is against the injustice, but she's really just being used. She's being used as a face, you know, more than a person. And I think this book does such a beautiful job of it. I also really loved Haymitch in Sunrise on the Reaping, even though that book was so sad. But Haymitch is my baby. I like Haymitch in these books, but in Sunrise on the Reaping, it was just getting to see his thoughts and hear his backstory. It was traumatizing. But the way Haymitch just like collects the children in Sunrise on the Reaping, he tries to portray himself as like a bad boy who doesn't care about anyone, who's just in it for himself, and then like he collects all the children who are in his Hunger Games and doesn't want to hurt them. He is literally my baby. Haymitch is my baby. I wish I could just hold him. He just needs someone to just give him a big hug. Next up, my camera is about to die soon, but we're gonna keep going. My new favorite author that I found this year. So I discovered a lot of new authors this year because I read a lot of new books, but my favorite one, honestly, one of my favorite authors of all time, not just of this year, R.F. Kuang. And the first book of hers I read was Yellowface. This is what started this love story between us. I just think R.F. Kuang's style of writing is just so intelligent and also very, what's the word? Very ironic. It's very sly. I feel like that's a good word. I feel like her writing style is very sly. So far I've read 3 of her books. The only books of hers I haven't read is The Poppy War. Each of her books, I've loved them and they have been 4+ stars for me. I love her writing style. I think her books are so interesting and I think they're quite different from a lot of other books I read, but this was one of my definitely best author discoveries of this year. An author that didn't work out, however, was Stephanie Garber. To be fair, I only read the Caraval trilogy by her, but I didn't really like either of the books in that, any of the books in that series. Everyone always goes on about her amazing, very lyrical, whimsical writing style, and I just didn't find that it was all that. I think that's more a question of me personally, because like I just think it wasn't for me. And so maybe if I were to read her new book Alchemy of Secrets, or if I were to read the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, then maybe it would be a different story. But just having read 3 books for her already, I don't really have any desire to pick up other books by her because I just wasn't the biggest fan. So unfortunately Stephanie Garber is just not really an author for me, or at least the books of her I read I wasn't a huge fan, and I'm not in any hurry to pick up any of her other books. Next up, the happiest book that I read all year. So I know I said I'd try and diversify my list, but Somewhere Over the Sea was 100% hands down, no comp, the happiest book that I read all year. It was the one book that almost made me cry out of happiness. I literally had tears in my eyes because it was just so pure and so happy, and just thinking about this book makes me so happy because this book was just beautiful. It was perfection. This book, and like I said, same with the first one, I feel like they are just so positive and heartwarming. There were so many moments where I literally just had to like close it and just like smile in joy, and then obviously almost cry in joy. And I just think it was beautiful. It had a happy ending. I loved it. I love this book. I feel like if I was ever in a like depressed, I would just pick up this book and I'd be immediately cured. The Cure for Depression, people, this book. The saddest book that I read, on the other hand. So this was a struggle. I have read some sad books. I've cried over a lot of books, but there is only one book that has the power to destroy me again and again, and just thinking about it or staring at pictures from the series made off this book for too long actually made me almost cry. And that is One Day, for those of you who didn't already guess. I don't know what it is about, maybe the fact that there's a book in a series and that I read the series, that I watched the series and read the book, but that book, nothing makes me sad like One Day makes me sad. I don't want to talk about it too much because I will get sad. Like I said, it's traumatizing, and honestly it isn't the whole book. Same with the series, isn't the whole series. The first 3/4, fine, happy, cute, little kind of right person, wrong time situation, second chance, and then you get to the last quarter and it rips your heart out and stomps on it and puts it through the blender. And so I've never cried so much for a series in my life. I did cry a little bit less for the book, but that's just because I was reading it and all my family were around, and it's harder to cry in front of a bunch of people than it is to cry on your own. I still did cry though, so many tears. So yeah, that was definitely the saddest book that I read. There is no competition to that. A book that I haven't stopped thinking about. So I was tempted to also put One Day, and it would be true. I have not stopped thinking about it. But the book that I chose is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I read this book back in February, and I honestly think it is a contender for like my best book of the year. It is definitely top 5. And I read it all the way back at the beginning of the year, so I feel like that speaks for itself. I don't know what it was about that book, but I just really, really loved it. I just connected to it in such a deep level, and I thought it was a beautiful story. I thought it was beautifully written. I was so invested. I love Evelyn, and I also love Harry, and I loved them. That book, I don't know, it was just a really good book, and it just had a really big impact on me. I don't know why, I did cry at the end of that book. None of the like best books that I've read have not made me cry in some shape or form, or at least made tears come to my eyes. That book has become my Roman Empire since reading it, and I want to read more Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. I think I could get some really good books. Next up, unpopular books that I love. So for this, I didn't go with an unpopular book because I'm just a girl dropping her books on the floor. I do consume a lot of popular media because I've seen other people talking about it. I'm not gonna see someone say this is bad and read that book, you know what I mean? Because if someone says to you a book is bad, it doesn't really inspire you to pick it up. But I have seen people saying that they didn't love this book, and that is Iron Flame. I know that it is the least liked in the 3 books that are out so far. I know that a lot of people were disappointed by it, but honestly, I think it was better than Fourth Wing. I really liked it. I thought it was a perfect continuation of the story. I loved what it did to everyone's characters. I loved what it did to the plot. I just really, really liked it. And so while it isn't exactly unpopular, it's still widely loved, and it's in one of the most popular book talk series that there is. It is the most unpopular out of the 3, I would say, and I disagree with that opinion. I really, really like this. I thought it was really good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I can't wait to reread. As soon as book 4 gets announced, I will be doing a reread of this entire series because I just really, really enjoyed it. A book that I thought I'd love but didn't. That is How to Kill Your Family. I read this in November, and I don't know, I was disappointed. I just thought that this would be really fun, that'd be really interesting, that would be kind of similar vibes to Yellowface, and that you have a main character that does horrible things but you can't help but root for them. It was not. I just did not enjoy it. I did not like a main character, and I was very disappointed, honestly, because I thought I'd really enjoy it, and I did not. And that was very disappointing. The book with the most unique concept that I read this year. So being someone who reads a lot of fantasy, this was not easy, because a lot of fantasy books have similar concepts. They're all with magic, or they're just not that unique because I've like seen it before. One that I did think was quite unique was Babel by R.F. Kuang. It was a dark academia fantasy book that deals with colonialization and languages, and basically the magic system in this is if you have a metal bar and you write something on it in 2 languages, so like say something in Chinese and something in English, and those translations don't match up, it creates magic. I feel like I explained it really badly, but it's such an interesting concept. I thought that language is like magic, and like obviously because a lot of magic is language based, like in Harry Potter you need the spells, you need the way you say the spells to be correct for the spell to properly work, and so in that aspect like that wasn't unique. And no, I just thought this book was really unique, and like a lot of things I hadn't dealt, like it wasn't just a simple dark academia fantasy where they went to school and learned about the magic of linguistics. It also dealt with colonialism, there was murder, there was rebellion. I think, like I said, R.F. Kuang, I love her so much. I love her books. I think all her books are really unique, and unlike a lot of other things I've read, it wasn't just your typical fantasy romantasy book. Next up, we have the most frustrating book that I read all year, and that was Lightbringer. I want to preface this by saying this was a 5-star read for me. It was one of my all-time favorite books of the year. It's definitely top 5. Much like Evelyn Hugo, I haven't stopped thinking about it since I read it, and yet there was a solid, with the second one as well, there was a solid half of this book where one of our 2 main characters, I just wanted to shake her because she was being stupid. She was making terrible decisions, she was doing terrible things, and it was really annoying, really frustrating to read. And yet it managed to like conclude it, and it managed to keep my interest, and it did it in literally the best way possible. So it was really frustrating, but at the same time I was so invested, and like I fully understood where she was coming from. It was just so well done, and also the ending was really frustrating. Like I really loved it, and it made me cry, and it was beautiful, but it was also really frustrating. So unlike anything I've ever read, but so well done. Okay, so then we have the longest book that I read this year. So I read quite a lot of big books, but the biggest one that I read, to probably no one's surprise to people who know this book, and that was Kingdom of Ash. This book is 978 pages long, and it does not feel like it. I can guarantee you that it does not feel like 1,000 pages. You're just so invested in the story. This is the conclusion to an 8-book series, I believe, so of course it has to be huge, it has to be epic, and it was all of those things. So the biggest book I read was Kingdom of Ash. It flew past. And then the shortest book I read was Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett. Not only is this like a small size paperback, like compared to a regular paperback, it's like a pocketed sized edition. It was also not even 200 pages. I think it was 180. It was just over 200 pages. I lied to you. It was 205 pages. But to be fair, like it starts on page 7. But I recently read this book. It was a good book, honestly. And it did feel like a quick book. It was quick to read. It's a standalone. So it was also just refreshing, really. My favorite cover of the year. There are many covers of books that I read this year that I thought were just absolutely gorgeous, but the one that I picked out for this video is The Rose Fields by the Book of Dust. No, by Philip Pullman. And honestly, all of the books in this series have really beautiful covers. Like they were done by an artist and everything. They are by, wait a second, they are by Chris Wormel, and they are just absolutely gorgeous. Can we just take a second? I mean, the gold lettering, the absolutely gorgeous sky. I think the colours are also really beautiful. I love sunsets. I think sunsets are gorgeous, and so this book having like an absolutely gorgeous sky, sunsets, I don't know, I just think this book is art and this book is beautiful. Okay, so a book I would reread. Obviously, like I said, Fourth Wing, Evelyn Hugo, but I've already talked about those and I wanted to keep it fresh. And so we're going with The Boys of Tommen, and more specifically with the Saving Six and Redeeming Six, so Joey and Aoife's story. When I read these books, I just got my wisdom teeth out, so I was kind of dead for one. And also I think I read the 2 of them in like 4 days, and these are really big books. This one is 700 pages, and then the next book is I think 930, so they're really big books, but I read them really quickly because of the fact that I read them really quickly, and because I just got my wisdom teeth out, so I wasn't like fully present. I kind of have a hazy recollection of these books. Like, I know the overall plot, but I feel like I just didn't appreciate them like I would have if I'd read them in normal circumstances, and so I want to reread them. And honestly, I want to reread the whole Boys of Torment series because I really enjoyed these books, and I just feel like because I was so obsessed and I read them really quickly, I'd like to do a slower reread where I can really like take in and appreciate every single detail. I definitely want to do a reread of Joey and Aoife's story, at least. We're coming up to the last few questions, but the next question is a book that I wish I'd got to, and for that I picked out The Bridge Kingdom because I was supposed to read this in November. I just never got around to it, and that is a shame because when I bought this book, it's because I really wanted to read it. The whole series, honestly, I want to read the whole series, and hopefully I'll read it soon next year. Fingers crossed. I will definitely read it next year, but I hope I read it towards the earlier part of next year. But no, I am disappointed I didn't get around to it. I never got to read it in November. I cannot wait to get around to it next year. My favourite duology, trilogy, or series. So I don't have a duology. I didn't read many duologies this year. I guess if I had to choose a duology, it would probably be The House in the Cerulean Sea. But my favourite trilogy was The Hunger Games. I love The Hunger Games. I think they are so intelligent. Every time I read them, I discover new things that I'm really interested in. And I see on Pinterest people talking about this little detail that's actually like so much more than you think it is. And so honestly, this trilogy, they're basically as close to perfection as a trilogy can get. My favourite two series, I couldn't just choose one, would be The Boys of Torment and Throne of Glass, because like I said, I'm just a girl and I love things other people love because other people have good taste, and if everyone loves it, it's for a reason. I love, in The Boys of Torment, I love an interconnected friend group series where you get like a story for each friend and you get all their history. I also love books that are like almost needlessly traumatic, as in the main characters go through so much trauma, so much terrible things that you're just like, seriously stop. These poor babies, leave them alone. I kind of love books like that. I cried at every single one of them almost. They were horrible, but I love them so much. That friend group, they have become some of my favourite book characters. And then of course, Throne of Glass. I mean, what more do I need to say? That book was everything I didn't know I needed. I didn't realise how much I needed epic, world-spanning, high-stakes fantasy. I felt there's no other way to say it. You had multiple countries, it was over multiple years' time, there was a war that like, at the first book it wasn't really there, and then it obviously culminated in the last book, so like it built up over the course of the series. You had a huge cast of such varied and interesting characters. I have not read a book series like it in that way ever, and I haven't read one since, and I've been looking to read one since, and I haven't found it yet. Next question is, what is my lowest rated book on Goodreads and my highest rated book on Goodreads, and do I agree with those ratings? I don't actually normally use Goodreads, but I went on it just to find this out. So my lowest rated was Never by Jessa Hastings, and it had 3.26 out of 5 stars. I disagree with that. I've never read anything else by Jessa Hastings, and I just loved it. I thought it was really well written. I did think our main character was annoying, but like with Lightbringer, it was annoying in a way that made perfect sense. And I don't know, I just thought this was really interesting and really well done. And then I think, to no one's surprise, my highest rated book was Kingdom of Ash, which has a 4.71 out of 5 star rating, which is huge. I definitely agree with that. This was a really good book. I literally was just talking about that series, I'm not going to go on too long about it, but I personally gave it 4 stars. It wasn't my favourite of the series, but it was really good, and I definitely agree with that rating. I think this book is hugely popular for a reason. I think the series is hugely popular for a reason, and that's just because they are so damn good. And then my final question is, what was my favourite book of the year? And my answer to that is there wasn't one. I could not choose just one book. So it is between 2 books, and those books are Lightbringer and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Those were probably the 2 books that I read that I think the most of, that when I'm thinking about like my top 5 books, they were both 5-star reads for me. Honestly, they were both Infinity Star reads. They broke the scale. They're books that I read them both in February, and I still think of them now, so like 10 months later. So I think that for one speaks for himself. But no, I could not choose between the 2 of them, so do not ask me to try, because I will not. I refuse. This is my channel. We do what I want here. But they were both just such perfect books, and they were both so very different as well. When I read them in February, I did not think they would still be my favourite book of the year all the way at the end of December, but here we are. Would reread again with absolutely no hesitation. There you have it, folks. This was my 2025 end of year book tag. I cannot believe the year is over. I have had honestly the best reading year of my life, quite possibly. I've discovered so many new authors, so many new books, so many new things that I like in books, be that book tropes or worlds or magic systems, and I cannot wait to continue next year to keep reading more books, discovering more authors, discovering more genres, and just accumulating to this amazing pile of books that I've read and that I've loved. Honestly, I would never have thought I would read 77 books this year, as shown for my goal of 55. I've surpassed that by 20 books. Honestly crazy just looking back at this year, seeing all the books I've read. I had a lot of fun doing this video, getting to like do a retrospective on my year, getting to actually think about it myself. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed Bookmas. This is the last video of the year. We will not see each other until 2026. Which is absolutely crazy, but I am looking forward to another epic reading year. I just cannot wait. I hope you guys have lovely holidays, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'm a bit early, but it's okay. With that, I bid you adieu, and I'll see you next year.